Um, as I said before, we believe there is an awakening on campus and the moving of God's Spirit. To quote Pastor Brian Houston, we believe that, or I believe that revival is in the air here at MIT. And we want to build on this momentum. We always believe that God has even more, as He says in His Word. We are God's husbandry, and we are God's building. And we believe that He wants these new seeds to grow, and He wants to add new levels to this building of His kingdom that He is making on this campus. And so we want to be a part of that. And so where that leads us in the future is we want to focus on reaching unreached parts of campus. One thing that comes to mind is just a community on campus that we've done maybe a less a good job in the past of reaching is communities such as sports teams, East Campus, just various sections of this campus where maybe students don't know a friend who knows Jesus. And so that's one of our main focuses is, as Cru, we want every student on this campus to know at least one friend who has a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so we actually had a member of Cru decide to or try to be a missionary and move out to East Campus. Unfortunately, she was not accepted, but we're going to continue to pray and look for the moving of God's Spirit in reaching new parts. And again, we want every student to be know someone who knows Jesus, because we believe that He is the hope of the world and that He provides everything that we need as people. We are also looking to equip each other to excel in everything that we do, whether this be on a personal level, on a communal level through life groups, whether this be through our main gathering. We want everything that we do to be equipping students to be live their best life that they can through a relationship with Jesus Christ. We want to demonstrate greater faith, greater love, and greater hope to all students on this campus. We want to be a community that commends each other in every way, in great endurance, in struggles, hardships, and distresses, in hard work, sleepless nights, hunger, peace sets, in glory and dishonor, bad report and good report, sorrowful yet always rejoicing, having nothing and yet possessing everything. And I did take the liberty to add the peace sets there to the words of Paul in 2 Corinthians. Really, it all comes down to we want to build each other up in God's great building, as I said. He's moving on this campus. He's building new floors, adding new levels. We want to be a part of that. So that's an update from Cru.
Matt, I'm Brian. To repeat, I'm representing the Graduate Christian Fellowship. I also had the privilege of being involved in Christian community at MIT as an undergrad, and still am really blessed to be able to look into what God's doing there. Yeah, just speaking from the Graduate Christian Fellowship, first of all, it's really encouraging to know that we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and those who've gone before who still care deeply about what Jesus Christ is doing at MIT. And that is really encouraging and also really humbling. Yeah, so the ones in our graduate Christian groups have been really blessed to be able to have a community of people who are, yes, very focused on their research, and even grad life is very single-minded almost in your focus. It's a 5-year marathon to a single goal, a single expertise, and yet to be able to encourage one another that we do all things for the glory of God, that we aren't just students who happen to know Jesus, but that we deeply believe that we've been called by God to be excellent at our work. And that's been something which is really encouraging among the students of different diverse research groups and backgrounds, to be able to meet with each other and also with faculty who are Christians, and to see how that plays out not just here for a chapter, but through their entire lives and their careers as well. This just to give a specific update. We've been focusing this semester on, our theme has been what it means to love God well, looking specifically at the greatest commandment as commanded by Jesus in Deuteronomy as well, which is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And not just to do things for God, and not just to remember God, but what it actually means to dwell in loving God well. And that's been really challenging for the community, because we're a bunch of achievers. We tend to measure things in terms of like practical how well we're doing. And it's very easy to try and look at like the numbers and get hung up in that, but just take a step back and realize that that we're here solely for God's pleasure. And yes, that calling has numbers, and that calling, yes, is to our work. But at the heart of it, to have a heart which is after God's own heart. That's been really cool to walk with the members, and not just as a community, but even as what is a community but its members, and to walk with specific individuals as well and see just the growth and how everyone, not everyone, I can't say that, sorry, overgeneralization, but how so many people are specifically pressing into desiring to love God better, admitting that honestly it's hard and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I want to, which is the heart which God desires for us to have. And yeah, another just piece of encouragement is like we've been seeking not to just meet together, but to really commune and fellowship together and encourage one another. And one of the things we're trying this year, kind of on a whim, was what if we started eating together? Not just saying, oh, it's biblical, but it's also social, and it gives a chance for people to not have to split their schedule so much. But it was a step of faith because we were like, that's going to be a lot of money. But we've actually really seen God provide over the last year. We've been having dinner for like 30, 40 people, or every Friday for our large groups, and yet our account balance has actually gone up since the beginning of the year, which is something really small, but just an awesome way to see that God is just right there providing and really faithful, blessing us as a fellowship. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm John, as Carla said. I'm a junior, a part of Crew, the fellowship that Matt represented. I spend a lot of my time, as Carla said, helping to coordinate UCO. And as such, Carla and I have seen a very unique perspective in the sense of once a month, we get to see 12 student presidents or 10 student presidents with a bunch of different affiliate presidents kind of come in and say what's going on in their spiritual realms and facets of campus. I think as Matt and Brian very well represented individually within these fellowships, there's a lot of movement, and there's a lot of movement forward and collaboration and movement from God forward in a lot of different ways. But there's a cool multi-layered approach that we see God doing, in that there's also collaboration within the collaborators, within the leaders of these presidents. There's been a huge, we're going to call it passive push of collaboration and of cooperation in reaching the greater campus, in terms of what Matt said, what Jesus did is good news for all. And with these leaders coming together of these different fellowships, there's been an upward momentous trend of coming together for the greater picture, for the bigger picture. Spiritually, there's a bunch of different, we're going to call them individual fires that have been birthed from God in a lot of different ways. And I think where we're at right now, the snapshot spiritually of this campus, is what's going to stick. Is how is it going to be encouraged, pushed, given fuel by both Orsel, by presidents, by students themselves, by chaplains, by this whole team, by MIT Can, and we're really excited to see it move forward. I think each, as Reverend Boswell Ford, you mentioned the interfaith, the 4 steps of interfaith with the 4 C's. I think that's also being seen in terms of intra-faith, in terms of within these Christian fellowships. I think there's been a lot of competitiveness that has stepped aside. I think there's been a lot of cooperation and stepping into collaboration, which is a beautiful sight to see. I think that Orsel external report also said it really, really well, of there's a rare synergy that is coming about with a lot of these different fellowships, with an excitement that you can feel in the air. We're really excited to see that move forward. I think, again, just kind of the snapshot summation, we've seen specifically in the last 2-3 years a number of individual revivals. I know Matt talked about kind of the MIT wide revival. I think right now is the transition between individual revival that is the cause of corporate revival, and I think we're seeing that in a lot of ways. We are excited to see what comes from MIT Can. There's a lot of fellowships that have stepped into their niches, that have stepped into their strengths and given up their weaknesses. And there's been a lot of creation in that realm, a lot of collaboration in that realm. And we are excited as Christian student population to see kind of what niche MIT can fill, and how it can help serve student population in terms of networking, in terms of mentorship, in terms of offering resources that right now the student population doesn't have. So we're excited to see that move forward. Thank you to all the panelists so far. Reverend Boswell Ford, thank you for that wonderful presentation. And with that, we can open it up to Q&A. Eva, I think, is moderating this, but thank you guys to everyone who's listening as well.
Well, let me just ask this question as well, because there was a description of a revival happening on campus. And can you give a few more details about that revival happening on campus?
So I can take this one and we can go from there. I think the best top-down view of it is an excitement, a spark in the air that wasn't there before. And it kind of manifests itself in different ways, right? I think there's from bottom of the ladder to top of the ladder, different manifestations of that excitement. Namely, you hear Matt over here talk about individuals coming to Christ. You hear individual fellowships working in ways that haven't necessarily been the norm as of years, and an excitement on the individual level there that looks like people coming to Christ, that looks like leaders and students stepping up within these actual fellowships, saying, hey, I feel God calling me toward worship in some way. How can I do this? And these fellowships kind of enveloping these people in support and saying, let's make this happen. You see students coming up from these actual individual fellowships and saying, hey, I want to do something with different fellowships together. And you see CPW event collaboration that has been shaky in years past, in not just saying we're going to do this, but in having many members come on board with Holy Spirit-led initiatives individually to come forward and say, we want to work together for the CPW. It's manifested in interfellowship prayer that has been happening once a week, in students coming forward and say, we are here for the bigger picture, the bigger plan of Jesus on this campus. And yes, we have these fellowships that have strengths and have sub goals, but we are here for one goal, and that is Jesus. And